Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 4, the Hamsa Guhya Prayers, text number 33. Yonugrahartham bhajatam padamulam anamarupo bhagavananantaha namani rupani cha janma karma bhir bheje samahyam paramaprasidatu. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is inconceivably opulent, who is devoid of all material names, forms and pastimes, and who is all-pervading, is especially merciful to the devotees who worship His lotus feet. Thus He exhibits transcendental forms and names with His different pastimes. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose form is eternal and full of knowledge and bliss, be merciful to me. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In regard to the significant word Anama Rupaha, Sri Sridhar Swami says, Prakrita Nama Rupa Rahito Api. The word Anama, which means having no name, indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no material name. Simply by chanting the name of Narayana to call his son, Ajamila attained salvation. This means that Narayana is not an ordinary mundane name. It is non-material. The word Anama, therefore, indicates that the names of the Supreme Lord do not belong to this material world. The vibration of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is not a material sound. And similarly, the form of the Lord and His appearance and activities are all non-material. To show His causeless mercy to the devotees as well as to the non-devotees, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appears in this material world with names, forms and pastimes, all of which are transcendental. Unintelligent men who cannot understand this think that these names, forms and pastimes are material, and therefore they deny that He has a name or a form. Considered with scrutiny, the conclusion of non-devotees who say that God has no name and that of devotees who know that His name is not material are practically the same. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no material name, form, birth, appearance or disappearance. But nevertheless, He takes His birth, Janma, as stated in Bhagavad-gita 4.6. Ajopisan avyayatma bhutanam ishwaropisan prakritim swam adhisthaya sambhavami atmamayaya. Although the Lord is unborn, Aja, and His body never undergoes material changes, He nevertheless appears as an incarnation, maintaining Himself always in the transcendental stage, Shuddha Sattva. Thus He exhibits His transcendental forms, names and activities. That is His special mercy toward His devotees. Others may continue merely arguing about whether the Absolute Truth is form or not. But when a devotee, by the grace of the Lord, sees the Lord personally, he becomes spiritually ecstatic. Unintelligent persons say that the Lord does nothing. Actually, He has nothing to do, but nevertheless He has to do everything, because without His sanction, no one can do anything. The unintelligent, however, cannot see how he is working and how the entire material nature is working under his direction. His different potencies work perfectly. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, natat samaschabhyadikascha drishyate, parasya shaktir vividhaiva shruyate, swabhaviki jnana balakriya cha. Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.8. He has nothing to do personally, for since his potencies are perfect, everything is immediately done by his will. Persons to whom the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not revealed cannot see how he is working, and therefore they think that even if there is God, he has nothing to do or has no particular name. Actually, the Lord's name already exists because of his transcendental activities. The Lord is sometimes called Gunakarma Nama because he is named according to his transcendental activities. For example, Krishna means all attractive. This is the Lord's name because his transcendental qualities make him very attractive. As a small boy, he lifted Govardhan Hill, and in his childhood he killed many demons. Such activities are very attractive, and therefore he is sometimes called Giridhari, Madhusudana, Aghanishudana, and so on. Because he acted as the son of Nanda Maharaj, he is called Nanda Tanuja. These names already exist, but since non-devotees cannot understand the names of the Lord, he is sometimes called Anama or nameless. This means that he has no material names. All his activities are spiritual, and therefore he has spiritual names. Generally, less intelligent men are under the impression that the Lord has no form. Therefore, he appears in his original form as Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, to carry out his mission of participating in the battle of Kurukshetra and pastimes to protect the devotees and vanquish the demons. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam. This is his mercy. For those who think that he has no form and no work to do, Krishna comes to show that indeed he works. He works so gloriously that no one else can perform such uncommon acts. Although he appeared as a human being, he married 16,108 wives, which is impossible for a human being to do. The Lord performs such activities to show people how great he is, how affectionate he is, and how merciful he is. Although his original name is Krishna, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, he acts in unlimited ways, and therefore according to his work, he has many thousands of names. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. There is always this debate going on in different circles of learned scholars in the Vedas, whether the absolute truth is personal or impersonal. And depending on who is able to argue effectively to cut down the arguments of the opposing party, people tend to take sides or have particular belief system, or even sometimes they profess to follow a certain philosophy, and they call themselves, we are impersonalists, or somebody else calls themselves as personalists. But in reality, the Supreme Lord is the absolute truth. He is everything. The Bhagavatam perfectly describes the Supreme Absolute Truth by the word Tattva. Vadanti tat tattva vidaha. Those who are knowers of the Absolute Truth, they describe the Absolute Truth. Tattvam yad jnanam advayam. They describe the Absolute Truth as Advaya Jnana. What is this Advaya Jnana? Srila Prabhupada translates that Advaya Jnana as non-dual substance. So there is substance to the Absolute Truth, and that substance is described as non-dual substance. So what is that non-dual substance? Brahma, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti, Shabdyate. That non-dual substance is known as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Now this is the description in the Bhagavatam. And this description is very, very elaborately done in the Srimad Bhagavatam. This verse, which I just now quoted, is in the beginning of the Bhagavatam. And the rest of the Bhagavatam is establishing this truth, tattva, about the Absolute Truth, the ultimate reality, or God, or the Supreme Lord. By explaining this understanding, Advaya Jnana, non-dual substance, understood as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. This is the complete, perfect understanding of the Absolute Truth. But when it is said non-dual substance, Advaya Jnana, it has to be understood that the Absolute Truth is one. Ekameva Advitiya. Absolute Truth is one. And there are no two competing concepts or persons or energies or substances, two different substances, no. But still, there are three features. In the ultimate analysis, there are three features. Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. And they are non-different from each other. And what is the meaning of non-difference? This has to be understood carefully from the Acharyas, from the Supreme Lord Himself, who describes what is this non-dual substance or absolute truth. So you cannot separate the Absolute Truth as three different features or parts. Something described as Brahman, something else described as Paramatma, and something else described as Bhagavan. The way the description is sometimes done, Brahman is the impersonal feature, no personality, no personal characteristics. But Brahman is the absolute truth. And that Brahman is described in the confidential parts of the Vedas as the effulgence of the transcendental form of the Supreme Absolute Truth, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Yasya Prabha Hiranmayena Patrena. So many different ways. Brahmano hi pratishta aham. In different scriptures, there are different descriptions. But only the confidential scriptures give us a clear understanding of the actual understanding of how ultimately the Absolute Truth is one, but the Brahman feature is the transcendental effulgence, the spiritual effulgence of his transcendental form in the spiritual world. So first of all, we in the material world, we have to understand there is another world called the spiritual world. Otherwise, our understanding is whatever is within our perception is what exists. And that's all we are generally bothered about. But we should understand from the proper authoritative sources, there is much, much more than what we can perceive, what we can comprehend with our own limited senses and limited mind, limited intelligence, limited powers, limited capacities. There is much, much more. And very logically, very systematically, the Srimad Bhagavatam presents this reality, ultimate reality, the absolute truth, as much, much beyond our understanding, present understanding or comprehension or ability to know and analyze. So, Srila Prabhupada systematically, painstakingly explains in the different purports of the Bhagavatam, beginning from the first canto. So we have to systematically go through the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a very big literature. It's a very big composition, 18,000 verses. So most people will not be able to actually go through this 18,000 verses systematically, the way the Acharyas explain, the way Prabhupada is presented. Especially in Kali Yuga, where is the time? Where is the inclination? Where is the patience? So many scholars are there, but the amount of work they do is highly insufficient to even understand the inferior part of the creation of the Supreme Lord, this material world. They do years and years of study and research, and they don't even know that there are different categories of planets with different living conditions. That itself they do not know, the material scientists. And they have done so much work in terms of doing research and developing that body of scientific knowledge. And some of them who are a little sober, they say, it's very, very vast. This knowledge, if we go on developing and expanding, it's very vast. So they give up at some point, saying it's very, very vast. So then the speculators and the non-devotional philosophers, they come up with their own theories and philosophies as regards who or what is the absolute truth, what is the ultimate reality. So they simply sometimes are satisfied because they cannot go beyond a certain point. They just say, oh, that is indescribable. And in the scriptures, some parts of the scriptures, there are descriptions. Nirvachaniya, the absolute truth, is not possible to be completely described by words. So then they say, what's the need for all these descriptions? Absolute truth is beyond description by words. So why are you spending time studying all this Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-gita and hearing discourses by those who have studied these books and those who are speaking about this? Just be silent, become silent. And you should be able to hear silence. And this kind of philosophy appeals to some people who are frustrated trying to study the different philosophies, and then they are not getting any logical understanding or comprehension. So they give up all that and then they become very much satisfied with this silence and speculation. Because primarily we should understand, in this material world, every created being is a conditioned soul. So conditioned soul, Srila Prabhupada explains, is influenced by the three modes of material nature and cannot ever, under the influence of these three gunas, comprehend or understand or even come to realize by any means what is the actual truth, absolute reality, or who is God. Or even for that matter, who am I? As a spirit soul, spiritual reality, they are unable to understand or comprehend this. So therefore, the acharyas not only write books, they also explain in discourses, but they also give us some very, very simple yet powerful and very effective methods of even beginning to come out of our illusion and ignorance beyond this conditioned state of our existence, to shake us out of this state of complacence and ignorance and illusion. They have got very, very, very powerful methods. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he simply performed a Sankirtana of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And then very easily, some fortunate souls, many fortunate souls, not some, many fortunate souls during his time were shaken out of illusion, and they began to immediately, simply by hearing or chanting Hare Krishna, they were able to come out of this illusion. And then immediately their spiritual journey begins. And then for them, all these literature, especially the Bhagavad-gita and Bhagavatam, makes a lot of sense. And everything is understandable. The way it is explained by the devotees. And they also can understand how there are speculators who are simply wasting time and presenting the same, chewing the chewed in different ways. They are in ignorance, they are in darkness, but in darkness they are trying to comprehend what is the truth, what is the reality, what is light. And as long as they remain in darkness, they just do not know what is light. So somebody who is not in darkness, who is in light, has to enlighten them. And that is exactly what happens when the Supreme Lord incarnates, or his pure devotees from the spiritual world incarnate in this material world and enlighten people. But the conditioning is so strong that sometimes they refuse to come out of their illusory state or state of darkness. Now all these things are very clearly given in the scriptures. Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Don't remain in darkness, come to the light. Don't remain in asat, in illusion. Come to the reality. Asatoma sadgamaya. Come to reality. Similarly, in the Bhagavatam, in the beginning it is said, Vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapatrayon moolanam. Vedyam vastavam. To actually present the reality as distinguished from what is illusion. To separate reality from illusion, or illusion from reality. Vedavyasa has compiled the Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krute Kim va paraihi. There is nothing better or superior than the Srimad Bhagavatam in presenting reality, especially as distinguished from illusion. So this is not another book which is giving simply another perspective of what is truth or what is reality by another philosopher. No. It is coming from the absolute source, the ultimate source, God Himself, who instructed this Srimad Bhagavatam to the first created being, Brahma. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. And Brahma gave this transcendental knowledge, enlightenment, to his sons and disciples, and that is coming down in the parampara system. And Srila Prabhupada, who is coming in this parampara system, is presenting exactly that same understanding, message of the absolute truth, without deviating, without giving his own perspective. He is simply presenting faithfully. And it's very easily understandable if we approach in this particular way, tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So there are personalities, jnaninaha, who are having this complete knowledge, tattvadarshinaha, and they have realized and seen this absolute truth, and they can impart this knowledge to one who is submissive, one who is making relevant inquiries, and one who is actually inclined to render service. So all this is very nicely explained in brief in the Bhagavad-gita and elaborated in the Bhagavatam. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us to chant Hare Krishna, prepare ourselves to actually study or hear or read the Bhagavad-gita, the preliminary study of the Bhagavatam. The fundamentals are very nicely given. And then proceed to study the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the complete work explaining in detail about the absolute truth. Beginning from the very, very fundamentals. Again, the Bhagavatam doesn't actually depend on any other work. It is complete in itself. But to be able to even begin to study or hear or understand Srimad Bhagavatam, we require to understand the fundamentals from the Bhagavad-gita. And the message itself or the explanation itself is comprehensible for somebody who is actually situated on a spiritual foundation beyond the material influence. And that is very easily possible simply by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. In the Bhagavatam itself, it is pointed out that there are many persons who are well versed in the Vedic literature, but because they don't approach the realized souls, as Krishna describes in the Bhagavad-gita, jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. Therefore, they don't have the prerequisite for them to study the Bhagavad-gita or understand the Gita. They don't even know which Bhagavad-gita they should actually study. For them, there are so many different versions of the Gita, and any version is as good as the other as long as it appeals to your mind or intellect. You can take any. And some of them even mislead people by telling, actually there are many paths to approach the absolute truth. And you may choose the path you like, or you choose to. And all lead to the same goal. So Kali Yuga is a very dangerous age. This was never the case in the previous ages. Even philosophers differ. They don't say all paths lead to the same goal. Nobody has ever said this before this particular foolish person who is adored by other foolish people. He made this statement. And it seems like he is all accommodating. You see? He is inclusive. He is very broad-minded. That's why Kali Yuga is a dangerous age. It's a very dangerous age. So therefore, the safest path for people is to chant this Hare Krishna mantra and become properly situated in the spiritual platform to actually begin to even understand that they have to approach a proper authority and learn from that authority only about the spiritual subject matter or absolute truth. One person asked me a question that there are so many different philosophers and different interpretations. So which one can we really accept as the correct one? Because when there is a contradiction, obviously, you have to make a choice. You cannot accept both. So I explained to him that when it comes to learning any other subject matter, you don't have this problem that there are so many interpretations by many different people. You have a standard. Like physics, you cannot say there are some 230 versions of what is Newton's law of motion. You have studied in school. So you don't say this school teaches Newton's law in one way, some other school teaches in another way. But when it comes to the subject matter of spirituality or God, the same people are so foolish, so stupid, that they say, oh, there are different schools of thought. See how in Kali Yuga they say it's different schools of thought. And this is accepted all over the world. Universities, which are supposed to be authorities in matter of learning, they have rigorous standards when it comes to physics or chemistry. But when it comes to philosophy, many schools of thought. So I told him there is no question of entertaining many schools of thought. What is this nonsense? Many schools of thought. Will they ever accept any other subject? Many different schools of thought about their specific understanding? Never. It's never the case. So then why don't you apply that in the spiritual subject matter also? So then he said, yes. There should be some standard authority. And we have to accept that standard authority. And that is called evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu. Sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa saevayam mayatidya. In course of time, the proper understanding is lost, even though it is coming in disciplic succession. And to revive that correct understanding, the supreme authority, the supreme personality of Godhead himself is speaking again. Whenever it is lost, the Supreme Lord or his representative, the bona fide spiritual master, presents that same correct understanding. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada says, even though there are many editions of the Bhagavad-gita in English, still I am writing this because there is no proper understanding according to the parampara system. So I am presenting the parampara understanding, the authoritative standard understanding. And that's why you can see the result of people who read this Bhagavad-gita written by Prabhupada as it is. They are becoming devotees. Krishna says, Man mana bhava mad bhakto, become my devotee. Where are people becoming devotees? By reading the other Gitas. Not even one devotee has ever been produced by reading all those other translations. Whereas here, Prabhupada's Gita, it is clearly explaining that ultimately we have to become devotees. So, therefore, the only way is to preach this chanting of Hare Krishna and bring people out of their illusion into a spiritual platform, and then present this Bhagavad-gita and Bhagavatam. This has to be done, otherwise there is no hope for people. They'll go deeper and deeper into ignorance. If they don't take the right process, they're going to go deeper and deeper into ignorance, or they're going to remain in illusion, and they're going to suffer the consequences. So out of mercy, that's why this verse, being very merciful to show his causeless mercy, anugraha artham, he is actually exhibiting his transcendental forms, names and qualities, especially to his devotees who can actually properly understand and properly recognize this. So that is the whole prayer. And we have to actually preach this, that the Lord is understood only if you approach him through his devotees by the devotional process or devotional method. And he reveals himself to his devotees. He reveals himself. There is no other way. He has to reveal himself to the person who is following the right process and situated properly also. So we have to chant Hare Krishna, and then we have to situate ourselves appropriately, and then approach in the right method through the bona fide spiritual master. And then the spiritual master will enlighten us, and the Lord will reveal himself to us. I'll stop here. Grantharat Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.